So this is Baruch Fleischman. We're in the biurim, which are different points of view. It's amazing how different the points of view could be in small things. So we're learning at the ninth tikkun of the beard of Eric Anpin. Eric Anpin is another word for tzilus. It's another word for, well, what's the core of reality, the hidden root. So we're in the ninth tikkun. The ninth tikkun is in between the eighth tikkun and the 13th tikkun. It's snuck in between, or it's stuck in between. So we're going to see exactly what's going on over here and go down to the bottom. This famous pirush of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk is called the Ri Saruk. The Ri Saruk was a talmid of the Ariya Kodesh, the great Ari, but he was before the time of Chaim Vital. So he learned things in a different way, and we'll see what he has to say. So in regards to the ninth tikkun, he says, Rei v'pirish Mari Saruk Sham v'zel Lashono, da keshahasa'aros l'choira, heim din k'meforish b'kamadukti. There are many places we understand the hismatus of the light, limiting down to the light of the Ein Sof, is a gevura, and it's a din. V'afal gab shehem tsuras vavim, and even though they're in the form of a vav, which refers not to din, but to the middle line, which is Tiferes. We call makom heim din, because Tiferes has din in it as well on its left side. V'fnei shehem memoser guf. So he says the reason why they're din is because they're an overflow from the body. In other words, originally, I guess he means from the interior of Zer Anpin, somehow there's a lot of the tremendous light of the Ein Sof, but this is extra to it, and it comes out. As a result of that, he says, Moser Aguf, V'kol Moser Aguf din mifnei shuhum or choser. So all of this extra amount is the concept of din because it is the concept of returning light. Now, I'm not sure I understand that. We'll try to figure it out. What's returning light about a superabundance of light? What does that mean? So, I mean, how does it become or choser? Yesh hefresh gadol bein moser or gadol, but there's a big difference between the leftovers or the overabundance, let's say, or the overflow. There we go. The overflow of a big light, the moser or cotton, or the overflow of a little light. Of a sa'aros as a kan. So when you look at the hairs of the beard, yesh shnei mini sa'aros osam shemis archim v'osam hakatanim. So that you have two different. Look at the beard. You have two different kinds of hairs here. Osam shemis archim v'osam hakatanim. Ruchim hem hamoser or choser. So the long ones come from this abundance of the returning light that we said of mimosre, or from the part which had the big light in it, as or godel. So let me explain this. He says, ki hachasadim. Let's go over this idea. Chasadim come into the body of Zer Anpin as a result of our prayers and our Torah. They bring in chasadim into Zer Anpin, which grow Zer Anpin. So va'inyan ki hachasadim kashenik nasim besoch eze partzuf, and all partzufim are composed of the same 10 spheros. He says, and the chasadim are the mayim hamagdilim esailim, which grow up the whole body of Zer Anpin into actually being a complete adult conscious man with a human being with consciousness of God. So the and they go down to the bottom, and they're not able to find a way out, an opening. So they go down to the bottom. So now that they're stuck, they go into the bottom of the Yesod of Zer Anpin, and ultimately what we want to see happen is that the nukva is going to be built up, that is a female aspect, and these chasadim will be part of a yichud. But at this point, va'oz mesarvim sham chasadim in the gevuros. So what happens now is the chasadim start mixing in with the gevuros, which are already there. Mamtakim, it is sweetened gimel makavuros, and they wind up sweetened. The 5 chasadim sweeten 3 of the gevuros. V'chavishniim, and the other 2 that are left over, nisharnim b'li mitok, remain. The other 2 gevuros remain without any sweetening at all. V'achakach Makim bekarka hayisod. So now that the chasadim, the three chasadim, met up with three gevuros, all the gevuros wound up down onto the bottom of the yisod. V'chozrim hagevuros lamala, and we say that these gevuros that we're talking about now they start going backwards up towards their source. Now let's see what he means here. He says hayisod chozrim hagevuros lamala. And then a portion of those that goes up, the hiyos saras harosh will become saras of the rosh. You have these, I think he's talking about 5 gevuros now. The 5 gevuros bounce off of the floor of Yesod, because that's what I wanted to say, this is the Tikkun elevator. Because the Yesod goes up and down between Das and Yesod. And so there's an elevator there. There's an elevator. They get into the cab and they start going up. Now a portion of it gets off at one floor, l'chiyos sari hazakan, to become the hairs of the beard. So he says, oso chelik, so that portion of the rosh, who mahagimel gevuros amutakos. So he says, let me read this again, because I think I got this wrong a little bit. He says, v'chelik mehem l'chiyos sari hazakan. So a portion of the gevuros are going to become the hairs of the beard. Oso chelik shel harosh, so that portion that's going to go for the head, hu machagimel gevuros hamumatakim. So you're going to have 2 different kinds of hairs of the beard, hairs of the head. Now this is a whole deep idea here. He said because it all has to do with the bouncing effect off of the floor, the carpet of the cab, so to speak, of the elevator. Is going to take it back up, and it's going to go back up, it's going to bounce. So you have now soft hairs because they're made out of the sweetened gevuros. But the floor that represents the zakan, the beard, heim gevuros built-in nuntakim. So that's where the beard, the energy for the beard comes from. But the zerah saras kashish, so they're difficult and they're hard hairs. But in these hairs of shel zakan, so let's just stop there and think again. But these hairs of the beard, Atzman, there's 2 different types. So we said that the 2 unfettered dinim, the ones that are unsweetened dinim, get off by the beard, and they're going to make the beard. But when you look at those 2 dinim, that you find out it's not just so simple. He says so he says yesh abase mini minim. There's 2 different types of gevuros there. Echad, the first one, who chelik shebabes gevuros shelo nimtiku, is the portion of the 2 gevuros that were never sweetened. V'od chetzi gevura asher nish'arach mechagimel gevuros hamabatakim, but there's actually a half of one of the gevuros that was sweetened that comes along with it. So he said, Pirish shechagimel gevuros. So he says, mamutakos, that the three gevuros which were sweetened, lo nimtaku kulam, all of them were not sweetened the same way. Ala beis v'chetzi bilvad, only really 2.5 of them were really sweetened completely. Hey, mamutakim b'medregas achasadim, they are sweetened in the medregas of the chasadim, they're sweetened by the chasadim. V'chachetzi eina mamutak kumo elu, but the other half is not sweetened like them. Now let me read the words again. It's a little bit confusing for me. He says, one of the things that's bothering me is this phrase, this ches and the hey, but I'm not sure what they do. They're not normally included in the girsa, so the girsa really we want to read is Pirish Shachagimel Amumutakos Lo Nimtaku Kulam. So in the 3 of the 5 chasadim that were sweetened, all 3 are not sweetened. I would say not sweetened the same. El Beis V'chetzi Bilvad, it's only 2.5 of them. Hey, Mamutakim b'medregas chasadim, they're really sweetened and they become really completely like the medrega of chasadim. But the other half, so you have 2.5 that are completely sweetened by the chasadim, and then you have 1/2 which is not so much. It is sweetened, but it's not so much. But it's a little bit sweeter. shehem b'li mitok, and it mixes up with the two that have not been able to get the mitok. Mitok shenitcha, after it was pushed out, medregas sa'aras harosh, the sa'aras is a kan. So apparently this word, I'm concerned about this word acher shenitcha, that is pushed out. In other words, there's sounds like some forcible separation that takes place between the gevuros, which are not sweetened, and those that are sweetened. And we said that the sweetened ones go to become the hairs of the head, which are long and smooth, beautiful. Whereas we have these other ones which are not sweetened. But then we added on, that's the two. But we added onto the two 1/2 of the sweetened ones. So now we have two different kinds of, let's say, semi-sweet or not sweetened at all, gevuros. Mebedregas sa'aras harosh, the sa'aras is a kan. So that little half that was a little sweetened up, mikol chabez, from all of the other 2 v'chetzi gevuros, habiltim umutakim, heim hasa'aras haruchos, they become in the beard the long hairs. So in other words, something that's a little sweetened becomes the long hairs. V'chedek havsheni shehem b'li mita, but the other part that has no mitak associated with it, that is the 2 complete gevuros unsweetened. Hema sa'aras hakatanim, that makes the small hairs. Shehem tachas ha'gadolas, which are really underneath the big long hairs. Vehem ketzarim, and they're short. Kamo kutzim, like thorns. Avacha ve'enim yecholan l'tzeis la'atzmam, that they can't get out. They can't really go out and become an entity that you can see, that appears by themselves. L'chutz laharchi va'olam, because to really destroy the world, because they're pure din. Havahoidach ki tekev k'sherotzin, that says, because immediately when they want to go out, nit chavim, they're inserted b'soch hasa'aras aruchos v'nimtachol sham, and they become nimtakim sham, and they become sweetened by the fact that the long ones, which are sweeter, it's in between them. Now, when we say they're sweeter, they're not as sweet as the pure chasadim that we mentioned before, that the gevuros, which are sweeter with the pure chasadim, where but relative to the unsweetened ones, they are sweetened and they become the long hairs, and now they're able to sweeten the ones in the middle. At any rate, they trap it. So this is what it means when the hairs become mixed. Boy, I missed that. Chavim besoch hasaros, said that they're actually inserted between the hairs. We said that. So he says, shehem aruchim, I'm talking, va'ata nava the firish Sifra the tzniuta. So that's where we're going to stop now. I want to get back. I trying to do a good job with something that's pretty difficult, and I also, let me give you a look at the page, so you may be able to copy the page. Let me bring it up a little bit more. Be able to see. This is all my notes and so on and so forth on the Saruk. This is Baruch Fleischman.